Hey guys, Phil here, and today we're going to be taking a look at rigging a character for animation using just the simple new Genoma tools in LightWave. And you may recognize this character. First of all, it came directly out of Poser. I didn't do anything special to him, just exported and loaded into LightWave. Uh, you may recognize him from if you watched my D.W. Jackson promotional animation. He was the main character. So let's get started here. I'm going to go to the Setup tab. And then down below in the bottom here we have Genoma presets. And we'll take a look in here. And this has all kinds of presets for insects or quadrupeds or even various parts of the rig, such as arms or legs or various connectors. But we're just going to look at right up at the top here is bipeds, and I'm just going to click human biped, and you can see a little rotation of it there. You can see what some of the other examples are, but I'm going to go with human biped, and I'm just going to click OK. And there it is. First of all, it's on the same layer. I need to move it to a second layer. So luckily it's already selected, so I can just cut, and then I'll move to layer 2 and paste and put layer 1 in the background. And the first thing we can see is that it's facing towards negative Z, and my character, or positive Z, I'm sorry, and my character is facing towards negative Z. So let's rotate it a little bit. From the top view, I'm going to click, just hit R on my keyboard, and then I'll rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, and then R again, and that covers that. And let's expand this back view here so we can see a little better what we're doing. And with my action center at the origin, I'm going to hit Shift H for scale, and I can scale it down. It's actually pretty close just the way it is. But I'm going to scale it just to make sure that it fits in the character. And let's expand the side, and look, yeah, it looks pretty good for now. So next up, I'm going to start arranging the bones so that they fit the character. And this part's generally pretty easy. Just going to use point selection mode. So making sure that symmetry is turned on, I'm going to press Shift and Y to get that on. And you can also press the button down at the bottom to turn it on. And now I'm going to select all of the foot and ankle points, and I can use T for move, or T for translate if you will, and I'm going to hold Control to constrain it while I drag it off to the side, and I'll try and get it right in the middle of there, kind of focusing on getting the ankle in the middle. Okay, then we can do the same with the knees. So make sure I deselect the feet first. Select the knees and move them over. Just get them right in the center. Okay, and then we can see that the hand is facing the wrong way. So let's go to mouse mode, action mode center. I'll select all of that. Let's deselect the knees first. Select all of the hand. And I'm going to go to the side view. And let's zoom in so I can see right where the wrist is. It should be right about here. I can press Y and rotate it so that it's horizontal. And just double check. I think it should have gotten both sides. Yep. Okay. Now let's look at the top view. And we can see how we need to adjust everything. You can see we can't see any of the colors here. If you want to, you can set this to color wireframe. It can help sometimes to distinguish the different parts. So I've selected everything here, including the elbows. I'm just going to move it into position. Now I'll deselect the elbows and move the hands more so the wrist is in the right place. And then I'll rotate that. Get the hand as close as I can. Okay, now we can deselect everything and we can start moving the individual fingers. which seems like a pain, but it actually goes pretty quick. So just position that one. And you just deselect and move each knuckle as we get to it. Okay, and it's helpful to leave the tip of the bone sticking out of the finger a little bit in case you need to grab it later. Okay, and let's continue on with this one. Okay, make sure we got everything selected right. I don't want to accidentally select anything else. Okay, that should just about do it for the fingers. And then we've got the thumb. Now remember, this joint for your thumb actually kind of goes right about where it is in there. So we can deselect that, and this one goes about here. And then this one, you can actually see where that one is. And this one, put it right at the tip. And then remember, we have to look at the sides too and make sure that everything is in position. Let's change this to color wireframe so we can see better. All right. Okay, let's make sure we got everything selected here. There we go. And let's see. Okay, let's do this from the side so we're making sure we're going straight up and not in any weird angles. Okay, so that pretty much covers it. Okay, so I think you've got the general idea of how to get these fingers into position. So I'll pause the recording while I finish it up. Okay, so all the fingers are now positioned, the finger bones, I should say, are positioned correctly inside the fingers. Okay. So now let's see what else needs adjusting. Now clearly this entire spine section can be scaled down a little bit to make sure it's going to fit inside the body. So what I'm going to do is select everything, say like that. Oops, make sure I got everything selected like this. And then I'm going to make sure I deselect these green boxes in here because I don't want to adjust those. And let's take a look from the side view. We can see I can actually get the entire head as well because all this needs to come down. So let's make sure we got all this selected in here. And that looks like that should do it nicely. And make sure I've got these. Okay, and I'm just going to scale them down using H key to stretch, I should say. And I'll expand this so I can see nicely. And so I'm going to stretch them using mouse mode. I'm going to place the mouse at the bottom. I'll stretch it down, and we can see these are going to go inside the eyes, so I'll stretch it down so that it's just about like that. And let's look at the front, and we can see that also makes the shoulders pretty much line up right where they should be. Let's just fine-tune it a little. Yeah, that seems about right. Okay. Now let's look at the head area here. And we can see this part goes inside the chin. So let's just move that over there. And these go inside the eyes. So I'm going to actually position this in front of the eye. And I'm going to grab the front of this blue bone here. I'm going to move that so that it's right in the center of the eye. As close as I can really get it to the center. You can actually see there's like a cross right in there. So I'm just going to place it right in there. And then we're going to look at it from the top as well and make sure that it's centered correctly. So I'll just grab this whole section and we'll make sure it's positioned right in the middle, right there. Okay, and while we're here, we can see that the feet are not quite positioned correctly because the character's feet kind of veer off to the side a little bit. So I might as well select those. I can move them off. In fact, we can just use R or Y and rotate. There we go. And then back here, this section here, this is the heel. So I'm going to use Y again, rotate from the ankle. And let's make sure that that's actually going inside the heel. Let's take a look down at the bottom. And we can see it's not quite right, so let's make sure we got it selected. I'm going to position it here in the heel. And in fact, I can grab this entire ankle area and move it all forward. Okay. That looks good. That's a good spot for the ankle. And the heel is in position. And the toes are in position here. So let's take a look around, see if there's anything else that needs adjusting. See, I think these hips and even some of that spine are kind of a little too far forward. So I'm going to take a look at this again from the side, and the knees as well. So let's select everything from this white bone all the way down, including the knees. I'm just going to move it all back a little bit. I think that works better. So now let's take a look, double check everything. It looks like I actually moved everything forward a little bit somehow. So I'm just going to undo that. Looks like everything except for the feet, which I just moved back. So let's go ahead and just grab everything from the knees up and just move it all back. Okay, there we go. I'm going to look at it from the top, and the fingers should give a good idea of where it's supposed to be. There we go. So now I'll double check and Yeah, everything looks much nicer now. Okay. Let's take a look around. See, I think everything looks like it's in pretty good shape at this point. So when you're sure that everything is in good positions and you're happy that all the bones are inside the limbs and fingers and everything that they're supposed to be, then it is time to just take everything you see here, and if you don't have it selected, an easy way to select it is to just use the W key to get the polygon statistics, and then you'll see two vertices on here, and just click plus, and that'll select all the bones. Okay, and then so we just cut that and paste it into the original, and then we'll save our model and move off to layout. And once you've got the file saved, we can just come up here and send object to layout. And we'll switch over to layout. There he is. I'll switch the perspective view. And so you can't see anything, but if you come up here to setup, and we'll come over to Genoma and more and create rig. Now this takes a few seconds, but there you can see already 302 bones were created. And it continues going for a moment, finishing up the rest of the genoma. Okay, and it's still working. It's probably being slowed down a little bit by the video recording. Okay, and finally we have Genoma rig done. And there it is. It's all set up and you're ready for animation. Well, you may still have a few little things that you have to adjust. First, for the moment, let's try turning off bone X-ray, and you can animate with all of these things that you can see here. So you can grab this circle underneath of his feet, and if you lift it up, you can see the, oops, it was a little too fast, the leg animates correctly. Let's undo. And if we take a look at his arms, you can click this orange cube, and we can see that the arms animate correctly. And you can also rotate with that cube if you need to adjust the hands. Now if you get into a weird spot where the elbows are not facing the right way, you can grab this cube and you can adjust that, and that will animate the elbows. Okay, so let's undo this. Okay, let's make sure I'm all the way undone. Okay. And we can find a couple of small little problems here that I've found when I set up this character before. And mainly they're due to the arms. And so the first thing we can notice is if I grab this cube, I move it down, oops, you can see two things happen. First, it starts deforming his rib cage area in here. And at the same time, it's also starting to make his hair come down. So what we can do is put in a couple of holder bones in there. And that's pretty easy to do. So let's just undo and get everything back to the original position. And so I can just come up here to bone, let's see, add section and bone. And I'm going to draw bones. And then I'm going to look at this from the side view. I'll look at it from the right. And it's pretty dark, so we can turn on the headlight so we can see what we're doing. And then I will turn the bone x-ray back on again so we can see what we're doing. And then I'm going to draw a rib bone in here just right at a diagonal just about here. So let's just draw it in. Oops, that selected something. So let's make sure that I have that bone. I'll make sure something else is selected so I'm not accidentally clicking that. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. I'm under Add, Bone, and Draw Bones. And so let's just draw it in right there. And just something like that. Okay, and let's look at it from the front or the back. And see where that bone is. Oh, okay, yeah, it's right in the middle there. So let's move it off to the side. Okay, and so I'm going to, I have the scene editor here, and I'm going to find that bone in this gigantic list of bones. You can see, once you click it, you can scroll down and you'll find the one line that's selected. Okay, and I have one problem here that I accidentally parented that to the square, the cube there that I had selected. So I really have to just undo that and do it again. So I'll just clear that bone out. And I want to make sure that one of these spine bones is selected before I start so that the new bone gets parented to that one. So let's look at it from the side again. And I'll pick one right about here. Okay, and then we'll go again. Oops, add bones, draw bones. And I'll draw it right in there. And we can look at it from the back. And we can move that bone off to the side. Oops. There we go. Just enough so that it holds the shape of the ribs area. Let's find it up here. See where it is. There it is. So I'm going to right click and clone it. And make number of clones is 1. And then I can just come over here to the X along the bottom here, and I'll just press minus in the front of whatever number is there, and it'll just duplicate it over to the other side. And I can select both of those and press R, which will rest their position as well as making them active. So now, if I click this cube, oops, let's make sure I'm in object mode by Shift O. And I'll click that cube, bring it down, And you may need to tweak where the position of that rib bone, but you can already see it's working a little better already, not quite adjusting or not quite moving the ribs area. So, I mean, obviously that's not perfect, so you may need to play with the shape of that. Let's look at it from the perspective view. You can get an idea of what it's doing there. And so basically you can do the same thing up here and put a couple of holder bones in his head to keep the hair shape. So let's undo. Okay, and then I'm going to look at it from the right. Let's get all up in his hair. Oops. Right, then I'm going to do the same thing. I'll come over here to add and bone and draw bones. And then I'll just draw a bone in there. And look at him from the back. And oh, see, now the bone is off to the side. Let's move it over. And I just realized that I had the wrong thing selected, so we're going to have to undo that draw bone. Now let's just clear that bone out, because it's going to be parented to the wrong thing. Yes. So again, we'll look from the right, and I'm going to select something inside here, so let's select one of these neck bones. And then I'm going to draw that bone. Okay, let's look at it from the back. And the bone is right in the middle now, so let's move it off to the side to make sure it's going to handle the hair area. And I can clone it. There it is. There. And let's clone. Oh, that's not selected. There we go. Now where is it? There it is. Okay, so let's clone it. Okay, number of clones, 1. And then I can again come down here to the X position and just put a minus in the front. And that positions it correctly. Now we'll select both of them. And I'll press R to rest and make them both active. And if you need to deactivate them for some reason, you can just hit P for properties. And P for properties. Maybe you can only do one at a time. And now they're gone for some reason. All right, let's pause this and figure out. Okay, somehow they got dropped down to 0. So let's grab them both, move them back up into his hair. Okay, that should do it. Maybe a little bit higher. Okay, and I'll press R to rest them and make them both active. And if you do need to make them deactive for some reason, if you want to move them later or something, you can press P for properties. And you can see the bone active button is right there. Okay, so now let's make sure that the adjustment for the wrist is working correctly. Make sure I hit Shift O so I'm selecting objects, not bones. Oops. Move back up there. And we'll select that adjustment cube. So if I move it up now, you can see it's slightly adjusting the hair at the bottom a little bit, so you might want to move those down. So yeah, let's try that. Let's select both of those bones. Make sure I'm in bone edit mode by selecting bones at the bottom or Shift B. We can select both of those bones. Yep. There we go. And let's go into the properties and we'll make them both not active. And so I'm going to move this one. Well, let's move them both down. I think that should handle the arm movement a little bit better. And then let's move this one out a little bit. And I'll take the other one, also move that out a little bit, just so it's mainly handling the hair. I'll select them both again and press R. Can quickly make them active. Now let's try again with this little wrist adjustment, or adjuster. And you can see now, as I go up, there's a little tiny bit of movement in the hair, but not a lot. So yeah, that pretty much covers the hair. So one thing that obviously you can see, you do not need to make any kind of weight maps or anything for all of these bones. But the one thing that you do need to make weight maps for is the eyes. And luckily this poser character already has weight maps for the eyes. So that made things easy, but if you do need to make a weight map for the eye, it's very simple. You can go back to Modeler and let's take a look at his whole eye area here. And really all you need to do is select the polygons for the eye and use the right square bracket to select the whole thing. And really I'm going to turn off symmetry because I only want to get one of them. And then I'm going to come up here to map, and I can, or actually come down here to press W for weight map, and then you can see the poser character comes with a ton of them, but at the bottom you'll see new, and you can just create one, call it LI or RI, whichever one you're making. But like I said, this already has weight maps on it, so we don't need to do that. And so what I do need to do is I'm going to take a look at this from the perspective view. If I can get it to flip. Okay, and from the perspective we can select those eye bones. Again, making sure we're in bone selection mode. Okay, and we can press P for properties. And we can see here we have bone weight map. And we'll click that, and we can find I have left eye. So I'll just select that one. And then again, we'll select the bone for the right. And we can set the weight map as right eye, which would be down at the bottom. And so that should handle any of the rotations and such. So let's go back to object mode, and we can select this thing in the middle here, and let's zoom in and take a look at it. Whoops, ooh, that's scary. Okay, so let's move that forward, and you can see that the eyes will now follow that thing. So if I move that off to the side, now the eyes, too far, and the eyes are going to follow wherever it goes. Okay. So that pretty much covers everything we need to do to rig this character. For some basic animation, you can do walk cycles or have him, doing martial arts kicks and stuff. But that's pretty much it. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, please give me a thumbs up and comment if you have any questions. And please subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more.